Hey traders, welcome to my recap here for my trading on Tuesday, June the 14th, the Emini S&P 500 ES futures contract. And first day of the trading week here went really well. As you know, I don't trade Mondays, kind of take a long weekend every week just because, but good start to the week for me here. Just a couple trades, 6.5 points. Actually came pretty close to being a really, really good day. There was a couple other opportunities in here I could potentially take advantage of, maybe even had over 10 points for the day, but still a pretty good day overall for sure, and a little bit more volume, a little bit more volatility, some bigger swings entering the market as well from what we've seen, because over the last couple of weeks things have been a little bit tighter overall, and there's still been good trades, but a little bit more patience required. Still kind of being a bit conservative in my approach until markets kind of open up a little bit, but definitely some quality opportunities in here. And actually only traded for an hour and a half in here to get that 6.5 points. So pretty happy with that result for a limited amount of time spent at the screens. So taking a look at things as we got going here, we actually started around that market open. Things were kind of wedging up in here. We had a pretty good pattern tightening up after a decent push down. So there's a fairly good chance of getting a directional move out of something like that, even with the slightly riskier market open time where that first 5 minutes, reversals could be a bit common. So there's an aggressive opportunity in here, and normally try to catch kind of a first pullback in these situations. Don't really try to chase those early market moves, again, because of the prone, how the market is prone to reversals around that time. But didn't catch this one, was doing some stuff in the live training with some of the students I work with in the market. So I didn't really get a chance to latch onto that one. We did have some people in here getting fills, some of them getting filled at this level in here, some a little bit higher, and taking this up for a bit of a run. Most didn't actually manage to hold it for the whole thing, though. We just saw some smaller chunks out of it. We're looking for another pullback that didn't really materialize, and we essentially ran up into a pretty key pre-market area up in here. And this was an area where we knew some sellers could come in, where we had seen some supply enter the market before, overwhelming some of that demand. We need to be aware of those areas, be careful around those areas, and especially as things start to get a little bit extended with this big move that hasn't really pulled back, it can overshoot and kind of pull back a lot deeper than you might see on a normal directional move. So just being fairly cautious in here, waited as we kind of pushed down and had some good momentum, and then took a fairly good trade here that was underneath a little bit of a zone that had been reactive around this level in here. And that's really what I want. I want to be trading as we push through zones, trading off of those zones and away from them rather than trying to trade into them. So even though we had a decent push here, we really didn't push through this level that cleanly, and so I don't really want to take the risk, particularly going against this amount of buying. Even if I know some sellers could step in, need to kind of see a little bit of follow through to trade. So that was a good one there before we kind of ran back down into that that zone in here that, again, had been reactive in the pre-market, had acted a little bit of a flip in here, a little bit of resistance becoming support. And so, again, wanted to be cautious because we're going against some pretty substantial buying here. So buyers can really step back in at kind of any of these levels, and we need to be aware of that. Now, had somebody traded in here, you'd be able to do it with pretty small risk, and as long as you go in understanding those risks and keeping the stop quite tight, you're not really going to be too worried about the outcome in there. It's not going to hurt you too much. But I still like to be careful and try and look for those higher value sort of opportunities. I'm only risking 1.25 points maximum on a trade, and so compared to the size of the winners, this one being a couple points, this one being 4.5, it's pretty small, but I still don't like just throwing away those points or those ticks for no good reason. But after we had reacted in here and pushed down, I was actually quite interested in trying to get in here. Wasn't able to get a fill, so had a limit order in place where I wanted a specific price. Wasn't able to get my fill on that. That is sometimes the downside of limit orders, but they have a major upside in that you can define your price, you can define your entry area, you can define your profits, your stops, and really have a structured plan around that. So I think the value of limit orders really outweighs the sort of limitations compared to market orders, and they're well worth implementing. And again, price just kind of got away from us. We just had to wait here. We had some decent pops off of an area from the low for the pre-market in there, and certainly an area where buyers could step in, but we kept seeing sellers stepping in here. So we just had to wait for this area to break and then trading off of it. Again, love trading away from these levels. And the beauty of this is not only with this high momentum move here, but with this big move down before, we're seeing some significant selling, and we're seeing good subsequent legs, large directional moves. And so this was a good opportunity here if we could get some follow through to hang on to this trade. And we talked about that in our in our live training environment there, in their classroom environment, and we saw most people hanging on here for anywhere from 4 or 5 points. I was actually aiming for 5 points initially, and wasn't quite touching it in here. And as I mentioned in the class, didn't really want to get greedy. Was happy to take the profit off the table, so I brought things in. If I hadn't been able to get the fill in here, I would have waited a little bit and let it come back down. But I still would have taken anywhere in that 4.5 point range. I wasn't wanting, again, to get too greedy with it because it was getting a little choppy down here. So I'd rather take that profit off the table than potentially let things come back, 2 points in order to try to get 2 more ticks to get another half a point. It's just not worth it in my mind. Would rather take that high percentage profit that is available. But overall, a very nice move, and just called it a day after an hour and a half. Was really happy with that result, and didn't really see too much reason to keep pushing for the day. So hopefully you guys had a really good trading day as well, and send me some comments or anything if you have any questions on the trading and the charts for the day, and look forward to the next recap for you guys.